slash pass.
Slash short pass.
So we watched Girls' Night Out. It was a bit of a slog.
Oh yeah.
I think the reason that it's a slog isn't like any one kryptonite or bad piece of pacing or anything. I think it was more overall there it's that movie has just been done so many times since then, so much better that there
Well,
really wasn't anything to pull out of it that was like, ooh, that's the super interesting thing.
I am picturing somebody sitting in a boardroom saying, "This is like Animal House meets Friday
Hmm.
the 13th," and
Hmm.
no, it's not either of those because you've got so many fucking characters, so many scenes of the characters interacting, so many bad jokes, so many crude, this, that, and the other thing, and it's like I could see what they're going for. Like this is a college atmosphere. Everybody's a goofy college student. Whoa, it's wacky. But then you're like, please just kill these people.
The difference is that in a movie like Animal House, every single person in that movie was bringing a lot of character to every character, and
Right,
every
right,
character in here is given enough of a character that we can then stab them. That's like the amount of character
right.
that these women get. I couldn't tell you anything about the women in this film outside of the fact that some of them were not faithful to their boyfriends. That's about it.
And the title could be Girls' Night Out of the minds of the writers because they were just put out of the mind of the author. It's all the
Yeah.
it focuses so much on these two guys that for anybody who hasn't seen Girls' Night Out, it takes place in a college campus.
In
This,
rural Ohio, next to a
oh god,
sanitarium.
of course, as they all are. All colleges are in Ohio, just in a circle around the sanitarium. But
Our college, you got to come to it because it's the closest to the
yeah,
sanitarium.
yeah, the parties are wild. You never know who's going to show up. But the whole thing is, this is based in set in a college, and the slasher, because the entire premise, slasher pass. I should probably have done some sort of intro to the show where we're essentially saying at the end of the show, do we like the slasher in this movie? Slasher pass, based on the aesthetics of the slasher, the design, the character, the motives, the weapons used, whatever, the gimmicks, anything we want to take into account. Um, and yeah, so the slasher in this movie is the college mascot, but
Yeah, and it kind of it feels like they don't do a whole lot with it. They do two
right,
things with it. They do two things with it. At one point, they have a little bit of mistaken identity, and
hmm,
not even really to the extent that I thought the writers would, you know?
right, right,
Like I think that that's kind of the fun of having your character be like a notable mascot is like everybody's still just like, hey, there's the character. But they didn't do
exactly.
anything like have this bear mascot because that's what it is. They didn't have the bear mascot do anything like come out and then
He didn't come
d
out, in front of the
he
whole
didn't come
class.
out of the closet. No, he didn't come out and just like do a cheer after killing somebody because I thought that that would be funny. Of like, hey, do the thing. Like they should probably
Right.
give him like a thing to do. It's like, hey, do the do the wave, the wacky bear wave or whatever.
Hmm.
Like they don't have him do any
Do the bear wave,
fun.
like bears do in the ocean.
Yeah, yeah. Just what I can't think of off the top of my head what they would have their bear mascot do, but I thought of a little bit more than they did. So,
Yeah.
and then the other thing is that they gave him claws.
Yeah, see, okay, so we should establish, since we were talking about the movie first, I'm kind of jumping
Yeah,
around. This is entirely my fault. First episode jitters, everybody.
everybody.
We're
This is
trying
just how.
we're trying to do our best. Um, but the movie itself, it focuses on these two guys, Maniac and Guy Without Interesting Name. Um,
Yes.
and these two are focused on so fucking hard that you would think they're our main characters, but they're not. Nobody is. Um,
It's nobody's the main character, and then also like that's fine because in Animal House there's not really a particular main character. It's like it's an ensemble
right.
cast, but you're getting a a story with every single character. Every single character has like an arc to it.
Hmm.
All of the things that happen in this movie are a series of events that don't have any emotion attached to them. Does that make any sense?
It's best described as and then.
And then, yes,
Yeah, and then this happened,
it's
and then that happened, and then the end.
there wasn't a whole lot of. I think the second half of the movie is definitely better than the first half.
Oh yeah,
One, because we're getting more action, but two, there's a procedural sort. It kind of becomes like a cop drama there
it
for a little
does.
bit.
You know, another thing, it's biting on Animal House, biting on Friday the 13th. It's also biting very hard on Psycho, which they try to lampshade it by mentioning the movie Psycho in the movie, but it's like no movie, you're just ripping off Psycho
Yeah, I guess we should tackle
with the
the
cop
stupid
drama and all the different stuff. Yeah.
the cop drama. I think is the best part of the movie because then we're actually getting character development. We're getting how a character would feel about this. So there's like
Right.
the incel character who has his partner break up with him, and he slaps her, and then leaves the party in a big huff. And so
Right.
he's like obviously a red herring. But
Exactly.
then they call him in, and then he's just like, I didn't do that, and I wouldn't do that. You know, the exact thing that you would expect that character to say.
Exactly.
But also, nobody watching the film thinks he was the guy who did it because he's so clearly a red herring.
Right.
Like, that makes so he's just like, I didn't do it. And then the cops are like, yeah, you do seem like a red herring, huh?
I've been in
The
this
script
business,
is just,
been in this
the
business
cops
for
are just
20
basically
years. I know
looking.
a red herring when I see one.
Yes, exactly.
Takes a drag
So,
on a cigarette.
Yeah, that's also kind of like the downfall of what happens though is they just call them in and then they're like, well, you're not it, so we should probably keep moving the plot. And then we called in this person.
Right.
At one point, one of the guys is just like, yeah, we got new news. And it's like, yeah, we should call in that person again. We should go back to that part of the plot. We didn't explain that character enough.
Well, I just got a note here on the script, but the thing is too. The thing that's interesting to me is there are so many characters, and yet, if you have seen this type of movie before, you sort of have an idea who the killer is going to be from the start. Like once they introduce, like of 2 or 3 people, you pretty much know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the number of characters is what really stood out to me, because they would introduce a new girl to kill them when they had a bevy of other girls they've introduced, and it's like, all these different things like that. They had this one scene where Maniac and Nameless Dude, uninteresting guy,
Yeah.
they're walking at night, and they're walking down the college campus, and these other 2 guys approach them from the other direction, and it's like 4 of the same guy talking. I almost expected Maniac and the other main character to be like, hey, look, it's us coming the other way. It's like, you're 4 of the same fucking character.
There's also the movie opens with what is pretty much like an irrelevant scene where 2 guys are given they're like, hey, go bury this person, and then they're run up on by hooded figures, and they take the body of this person, and then they just move on. And it's that very much so that scene in Rick and Morty when they criticize the guy's screenplay and they say, yeah, you shouldn't just be allowed to jump to the interesting part of the movie just
Right.
because. So it's like, do we need to throw a murder at the beginning of this film to promise that there's going to be murders? Why can't you just have your movie start in an interesting way? Like,
Well, it's the thing of, it sets up, because the whole thing with this slasher, with what is the name of the bear even? I don't think they even named the bear, so we have a slasher without a name.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him Stuffins. So we got Stuffins here, who, for DeWitt University, you're supposed to think that he is this escaped mental patient, or, the people of the town and the college are supposed to think he's this escaped mental patient. But the first kill in the movie, the first death, is the mental patient hanging himself. So, and that's the body that's stolen. And it's like, okay, movie, then it's not that guy. Thank you.
I think it's supposed to be asking the question of like, hey, other movies out there like Friday the 13th, which is like a big bait and switch or something like that. Like maybe there's something supernatural going on, but that's not an interesting question movie.
Yeah.
Like that's not really something that you want to explore. What you want to explore is like anytime it's a slasher, It's who are these people that are getting killed and why do I care? That is the only question you're trying to ask.
Right,
If
right.
you can't answer that question, then you're not making a good slasher movie. Like, it's not like a porno where there's like, oh, the two chicks are hot, so nobody cares that they don't have like any personality. Like, you can't get away with that. Like, if you
Right.
want somebody to be invested in somebody dying in a film, you have to flesh them out. And like, all the women have in this is running away. Like I don't know what the purpose of this.
Running away and cheating.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
really,
almost like a
and
religious film. You know what I mean? It's almost like a
it
covert Christian film.
yeah,
Because the cheaters get punished. And it's all about promiscuity, and it's all about, you're with me, but you're going with him. You're two-timing me, dame, that type of shit. Like
it's
old-timey, not very college-like, actually.
no, and it's I don't know. It's also on one hand, the movie doesn't have a whole lot of melodrama around it because like all of the motivations around that are pretty simple, but it's just like very daytime soap opera writing
Hmm.
for what is supposed to be a horror film.
That's exactly
And
it. It's that thing of, will these two hook up? And it's like, I don't care because we don't only have known these people for 10 minutes. I don't, like, I
yeah,
don't care
it,
if this guy will cheat on her with her, or if she'll cheat
they,
on him with him. Like,
they do a few cute things with it here and there where it's like one guy, it's like a bait and switch where he sneaks up on her while she's a guy who's cheating with this woman who already has a
oh yeah, I
boyfriend
gotcha.
when she's in the bathtub. Like they have like a cute little back and forth then where it's like, him invading her privacy, but then we like come to find out that he's actually not and that there's like, this relationship going on. But then it's just like, then they just skip to them like having sex afterwards and then it's just like, yeah, and I need to leave, and it's like, what were we supposed to get out of that
Well,
besides
see, the thing is,
cheating?
he's a 37-year-old college basketball player. She's a 37-year-old rich heiress, college girl. So it's sort of like a Romeo Juliet kind of thing. Like they shouldn't be together and yet they are. Uh, but yet it's not. So what? Who cares? It's not
you,
set
you
up
know
really. It's nothing. They
the
they
the my favorite two characters of the movie though, because I do feel like Muffins Puffins, whatever we call him,
yeah.
he when we find out who that person is, it's really not interesting at all. And as you mentioned, it's, I guess we should just say it, it's just a ripoff of Psycho, just blatant ripoff of
Yeah.
Psycho. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
It's a ripoff of Psycho mixed with a ripoff of Friday the 13th, the
Yeah,
first one.
yeah.
But
So
for spoilers ahead for anybody who wants to see this, I don't know. You're not going to get through the first 10 minutes, trust me. But from here forward, spoilers. But
the two standout characters I would say are the DJ, who I don't even think gets a name. He's just the DJ.
right, DJ Stuffins,
And
yeah.
DJs. Now you're going to confuse people things like the Bear's the DJ? No.
No.
So he's like running the scavenger hunt, and the scavenger hunt is kind of like this, thing where they're all going out trying to find the, scavenger stuff. So it's like, haha, they're in danger. I don't know that that warrants the movie being called Girls' Night Out. I feel
Right.
like if anything, it should just be called like Scavenger Hunt.
Yeah, it should have been Scavenger Hunt. It has
Because that would
it,
have been interesting.
it has two titles, neither of which are Scavenger Hunt. The most popular title is Girls' Night Out, and it was released in the UK as The Scare Maker.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, no scavenger hunt to be found. But the thing is, I think the scavenger hunt is it's a good premise for a killer movie. Like when we get to the actual scavenger hunt, and you're kind of like, okay, I could sort of see this. Who will solve? Because the bear, Mr. Stuff and Stuff, steals the answers, which is like, there's the real villainy right there, is stealing the answers to the scavenger hunt. But gets the answers early and waits at each location to kill whoever shows up. And that's like the perfect setup for something, for a slasher movie.
It's easy.
If it's
It's like I
if
don't
it's
know how
called
they bungled
Scavenger
that.
Hunt, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they bungled that, but the guy DJ who's running the scavenger hunt or is officiating it, whatever you like, relaying the information.
Hmm.
He is a fun character, and so is the cop who like
Right.
is trying to discover the murderer with the DJ.
The like
That
campus security guy, the
the
hard
campus
nosed.
security
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, he's I was looking up his page because he's been in a lot of stuff. His name's Hal Holbrook, who passed away a few years ago. He had like just stood out to me as like the best character because like his motivations of like I want to get to the bottom of this shit was something that that's what you're supposed to empathize with in a
Right.
movie like this is because you're trying to get to the bottom of it. So I think just naturally that and his performance was great. I think he's like kind of the standout. A few of the women did like decent jobs being scared and having believable murders, but
And running, and yeah.
yeah, a lot of it was very melodrama, but I liked his performance.
This is the thing from the very beginning, because they set up this security guard and they say his daughter was murdered years ago on the campus by this guy who's in the insane asylum. And so from the beginning, my thought is, okay, well, standard late 70s, early 80s slasher rules. The slasher is not any of the main characters. It's an older person, semi-related. It's the cop,
Hmm.
it's the mother, it's the guy down and that runs the general store. It's someone who's like an outsider, so that you try to guess who the killer is, but surprise, it was this outsider you wouldn't suspect. So from the beginning, I was like, well, this cop, his daughter was killed, and now there's a killer, going after these women who are, blah blah blah. And I'm like, maybe it's got to be the cop, right? And then they introduce this other character, who turns out to be the killer, and I'm like, from the minute I see that person, I'm like, well, there's an even bigger outsider to the whole story. So that's got to be the killer. But then they, like, toward the end of the movie, that basketball player, Maniac, he disappears from the film. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah.
And he's not in it again for a long span of time until the police interviews. And so I'm thinking, they're not showing Maniac. Is that because they didn't know how to write where he would be while the killer was around? Like, is he the killer?
Yeah.
It just is like, at least there was something to it. But as you said, the security guard guy was like the best character, and I was kind of like watching it for him essentially after a certain point, because it was just like, let's see if he gets to the bottom of this case. Let's see if he does right by his dead daughter.
Yeah, and
Will he redeem himself?
you definitely feel like he has an actual emotional investment, and then again, as we mentioned, it picks up from there because it does become the police procedural for a little bit. However, it does kind of meander at that point, and then
Yeah.
it just fizzles out into like the movie doesn't even really end. Should we like discuss
Yeah,
that? The
I
fact
mean,
that the
we
movie,
gave a spoiler warning, so
yeah,
I guess
the movie,
okay.
the bitch robs the grave and then just puts him into a meat freezer, and the movie just ends on opening up the meat freezer, and the movie was mid murder. A murder was being attempted. There was
Let's-
one. So like the exact scene is this bitch stabs this guy once in the back in a way that probably like indicates he is injured but not killed, right?
Right.
Pulls it out, starts talking, opens up freezer, shows carcass, roll credits. Makes no sense. They don't resolve it or just like shoot the person or get any satisfaction. It's
And
just
I should point
a
out-
stab that definitely did not kill, and then the movie is over.
I should point out the security guard that we've been rooting for, the only good character in the movie, shows up at this stabbing at the end, basically sees the killer stab a victim, and basically says, "Hey, stop it."
Just no.
it.
Stop.
Hey,
Stop the
knock
stabbing.
that off.
That's that's the MO of people who are stabbing. It's just like stabbing once and then being done with it. It's
Right.
not the repeated. But no, that's
So let's rewind it a little bit. Our
Yeah.
killer in this movie, from the moment they were introduced, they were on my suspect list because, as I said, you can't have more of an outsider than that. is a woman who I think runs like the cafeteria at the college, like an older woman, 40s, early 50s maybe,
Yeah.
who is sort of like the lovable lunch lady of the cafeteria, sort of. And the minute I saw her, I was like, "There's a lovable character who's goofy and nice, and she's a fucking killer." But so she turns out to be the twin sister of the asylum patient who is
Oh
dead.
my god.
And they have her playing both roles. They have her as the guy.
They do, and you know, it's
It
like
doesn't really pull off very well, but they
no,
gave it a
especially
shot.
especially when they're calling into the DJ and they're like whispering, and it's just like, oh, they're whispering, it's a chick.
Yeah. And then they have the nerve. They have the nerve to have a different voice.
Yeah.
For like when she's talking, she's like, "And I did this because," and it switches to the guy's voice, and you're like, "Fucking come on."
Yeah, and I don't think it was her in the initial things either, but it
Yeah.
was still they were trying to like make you believe that like, oh, it's whispering, so it's totally this guy. It's like
Sounds like a guy. Yeah. But
yeah,
so
it's totally
she
a chick.
is our killer. She is the lunch lady. Don't know her name. She oh wait, no. Barney. That's
Kavanaugh.
right. Her name is Barney, and I remember that because I was thinking costumed mascot named Barney, like the dinosaur. But so she is our killer, and she has the body of her twin brother, which is also the same actress, in the freezer in the cafeteria, in the same way Norman Bates has his mother, in the attic in Psycho, or what, upstairs.
Literally
whatever
to the
that
T.
was.
It's like the exact same bit, the exact same shot for, like I'm never that guy to be like they plagiarized this. It's like literally just like I don't know. I think we ran out of funding. Let's just I don't know, do Psycho at the end.
Yeah, I feel like there is such a good movie in here somewhere if you just change basically the entire movie.
Well, I have great news. I did just that.
Oh, all right. Before
All
we
right,
get
so-
into
Yes.
talking about the design of the slasher's implements and weapons and things like that, let's hear what you have on tap here at
Okay.
DB's bar.
Let's repitch this whole fucking thing. First
Yeah.
off, we need to cut out that opening scene.
Yeah.
We don't need to see a grave robbed. It's not central to the killing or really even to the procedural aspect of the case. Because like in the original, the way that the cop even figures it out is he literally just takes a picture of the guy and just draws a little bit of curly hair on top, and it's like, by God, it's the lunch lady. It makes
By
no
God,
sense.
it's the
Anyway,
person with the same face.
it's the person with the same face.
Oh, same face is back again. Anyway, yeah.
Same face. Goddamn. I keep walking down the street, everybody has the same face. So we're at Ohio University, DeWitt University, whatever. We're in Ohio and we can't escape because we get to the edge of the Ohio and then there's just the wall of corn.
Right,
And then
right.
people tell you that there's stuff outside of it, but you've never seen it. The basketball team has just won the big game, and everybody on campus is having a good time at a multitude of house parties. We see every clique is having their own house party. Every fraternity, we got the baseball cheerleader party separate from the alternative crowd party and your stoner party, and even the nerds are going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But with each one, we settle in and focus on one girl. We're kind of like proposing that this person, this goth at the goth party, she's kind of going to be our main goth, who is going to
Final
be
goth, if you will.
the final goth, right? So we're getting all of our final girls ducks in a row. But I don't want to talk about every single one of those because that's where we're just going to hide the red herrings and actually flesh out the animal party aspect of this film that this movie did not actually do. And those are going to kind of be red herrings because I have something completely different in mind, and I want to focus in on that scavenger hunt because like you said, I think that that's the interesting part of the film that they don't do a whole lot with.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been the title, and now that you mention it, the mascot should have been a red herring. Should have been a fish.
Yes. So we get to know a girl named Jane at the nerd party, and she's a character in the original. She's the one who discovers the first item of the hunt, only to be attacked by behind by the killer who slashes her throat and I think like calls her a whore or something,
Of course, as one does.
as one does. So instead, what we're going to do is switch things up. She is going to be at this nerd party listening to the wacky campus radio DJ. I have named him DJ Night Owl as he prepares everybody for the big scavenger hunt. The winner of the scavenger hunt is going to meet Taylor Swift live in concert with 2 backstage passes.
Yeah.
So I
Pre-birth,
think that
not yet conceived Taylor Swift.
no, we're time jumping to now. We're gonna do this in modern day. We're going to make sure that Jane is up to diversity, inclusion, equality standards for modern day expectations. And more importantly, she's actually going to have a character instead of being killed off immediately.
Right.
She's a big Taylor Swift fan. She dances a lot when people around her aren't. She likes obnoxiously singing everything that she thinks. And by God, is she lol random by early 2010s shit poster standards, okay? But unlike the original Jane, she's not going to die. She's going to subvert expectations. So, do you remember the scene when they go into the girls' locker?
Is that at the squash court?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, I do. I just remember squash court, squash court, squash court. Let's go to the squash court. I'm at the squash
Hey, gang.
court. Like, and I'm
meet at the
thinking
malt
squash,
shop.
such an odd sport. But yeah.
So Jane enters the girls' locker room in the dark, just like in the original, and she finds the first scavenger hunt item. And let's say that, like, she's very intelligent, and most people wouldn't have figured out the puzzle. But she's just like really into puzzles. She's a huge Taylor Swift fan, and she's super excited that she found the first item in the scavenger hunt. And then the man in the bear costume, or the person in the bear costume, whatever. We have a person in a bear costume.
Right.
Slashes her shoulder from behind with, the claws and everything, and tries to take the item from her. But she quickly yells out, lifts her shirt, turns around, and without even seeing who clawed at her, she pulls out her concealed carry gun and shoots 5 times in the dark. But it's really dark in this room. It's not illuminated. And every time she shoots, there's an illuminated gunshot that shows the bear costume running away and flashes.
Nice.
And we can clearly see a gunshot into the shoulder and into the thigh before the bear escapes.
And then the killer dies and the movie's over. That is much
Absolute-
better than Girls' Night Out.
The police arrive and start questioning Jane. And they're like, so it was a bear costume. A person in a bear costume attacked you? How much have you had to drink? They begin questioning her. Do you have any jealous ex-boyfriends? Did you actually see what you were shooting at? A bear? Really? And you figured out the scavenger hunt answer all on your own? And they just begin questioning her and demeaning her. And how do you know that the bear was trying to kill you if it didn't talk during the entire encounter? Well, the police arrest Jane for discharging a firearm on school grounds.
Of course.
And now we're waiting with Jane in, the police cell, the holding cell, waiting to hear on the radio about how another girl has been murdered so that we, the audience, and Jane can feel vindicated knowing that a murderer has been let free and the cops are doing a terrible job.
Right.
But DJ Night Owl says the scavenger hunt is going well, that there hasn't been any problems, that people haven't found anything, but that they're out there looking for it, trying to solve the clues as they come out. The next morning, Jane's rich parents bail her out and admonish her for having a gun on campus, unconcerned and unbelieving her story. But we find out that we never figured out who won the scavenger hunt, and none of the 11 other items were found, only the one that Jane found. So she asks DJ Nadal who knew all where the locations were of the items. The answer is only known by him because he was the one who placed the objects, but also the head of a frat house. Do you have a name of like a frat house, bro, that we could go with?
Oh, I mean, the obvious would be Chad, but,
Yeah, let's just go with Chad. Fuck it. Yeah, Chad. but he's really meek and mild. Let's go with that. He super subverts expectations. Maybe he just got the job because of his name.
Maybe his name is Chid, so he's like a little
Yeah.
bit he's a little bit off.
He I'm Chid. Here's my brothers Chad and Chud.
Yeah. Chud is like,
Uh,
what are your political affiliations? Oh shit.
oh shit, Christ. So he would also know because he was the head of the frat house. Chid is doing what the leader does every year and put on the scavenger hunt for the seniors. So it's only for the seniors. The scavenger hunt is done the same way every year, and it's limited who can do it. And all of this would have been discussed somewhat a little bit earlier in the film, but it's a once in a lifetime thing. So Jane questions this guy only to find out he's been busy trying to clear his name for messing up the scavenger hunt. But he didn't mess up the scavenger hunt. They went according to plan and they did everything right. Typically, and I guess it's just like a tradition that's been handed down. So it's done the same way every year. Typically, only a few items are found each year, though. But and normally it's not like a Taylor Swift related thing, obviously.
No, every year. Taylor
Every
Swift,
year,
every
Taylor
time.
Swift, every time.
Back into the
no.
1960s when we first started this tradition.
But all of them are gone this year, which is indicative that somebody had insider knowledge. Jane suggests that somebody followed DJ Night Owl, but Chid counters looking at the legacies. Legacies would have information from close family members, so the plot thickens. And we're about halfway through now, but this is like where my pitch really ends. Now the film is going to be about kind of like an Ocean's 11 meets spy movie kind of thing, where Jane is going to get a coalition of people together to try and suss out from the legacies who could have, one, attacked her, and two, taken all of the scavenger hunt items. So they're kind of like finding these scavenger hunt items, and then the movie from there is just like focused on that.
Well, I do have one request. Can
What's that?
Chid have a girlfriend named Stussy?
Stussy.
Yeah. Just two O's instead of the A. It's Stacy.
She is just like the the trad con Wojak meme of like the girl with blonde hair and the blue dress with like polka dots on it or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's her, but she's like almost twice as tall as Chid is.
Yeah, there you go. I'm Stussy. That sounds good. Yeah, see the thing is, like you said, the fucking scavenger hunt. Would you call the movie Scavenger Hunt your version?
I would, no, I think Girls Night Out is a stupid name because it's not really like, yeah, the girls are out, but like so are the guys. I don't know why it's like Girls Night Out. Like Girls Night Out would imply that, I thought it would be something like, hey, these girls are going out and like partying, and maybe by taking ownership of their own bodies and deciding that they want to go out and get drunk and flirt with guys and do all these kinds of things, they're deserving of violence because it's a horror movie. I thought that was going to be the vibe, right? But for the most part, there's not a whole
As
lot of
is
even like
typical
slashing.
of all the slasher movies, but yeah.
It ends up being more like Animal House, but not particularly funny.
Yeah. And the thing is too, with the title, it follows that thing of there was Friday the 13th, and then there were many other things like Valentine's Day themed, or April Fool's Day is one of them. Different things where people were like reaching for a day. So
Jack the Killer, Jeff the Killer, and then Eyeless Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, same
Laughing
thing,
Jack
different.
and Jacking Jack, and yeah. But the thing is, it
Jilling
almost
Jack.
feels like Girls' Night Out was they ran out of days to use. So they were like, what about nights? I don't know, a Girls' Night Out? Yeah, there we go. Friday the 13th, April Fool's Day, Valentine's Day Massacre. Girls' Night Out? Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where I feel like if I saw this in the drive-in when the movie came out, I would be like, hey, that was a pretty good 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 movie. But now watching it in current year when there is an endless barrage of good horror films. It's
Right.
just like, why the fuck did I
Exactly.
do this for my friend to like do a podcast? Why did I watch this fucking shit movie?
Well, no. As I said in the Discord, because with this show, it's kind of malleable. We don't actually even have to watch the movies. We just have to get kind of an idea of the slasher. But there you were, ready to put in the work, and I'm glad you decided that you wanted to watch Girls' Night Out, aka the Scaremaker.
Yeah, there wasn't even anything fun or sleazy about this movie,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
There
that's the thing.
Girls' Night Out implies, some sleaze.
Right. And the thing is, if I were to, I'll just quickly say, if I were to do something similar to this, I would essentially the first kill of the movie I would have be the guy who's the mascot. That's the very first kill at the beginning of the thing. You have the mascot out on the field, and you have the football teams, going at it. The rival teams. This is the big game. These teams really hate each other.
I think you're
mascot-
just describing a mission in Hitman.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It's just Agent 47 just shoots a dorky kid in the mascot and puts it on. It's just got a hit on the head cheerleader.
He puts on everything but the mask, so it's just a bald guy in a bear costume.
Yes.
But
yeah.
But the thing is, I would have the mascot get killed first. Like, I would have he goes around anticing around the field, makes fun of one of the rival football players, and the rival football player suplexes him. And the guy doesn't get up. And they're like, bro? That type of thing. And so from that point in the movie, they've got a new mascot. Someone's replaced him. We don't know who it is. And from that point on, you're thinking, is it the mascot who got suplexed, or is he actually dead? Who's seeking revenge on all these people? You have the Girls' Night Out, you have the Scavenger Hunt, and I would do something that sort of is like more of a modern thing that a lot of, slasher movies have done, or horror movies have done in years since this. And I would have it be the Girls Are Out, Girls' Night Out, Girls' Scavenger Hunt, Sorority Scavenger Hunt, just for the girls. Girls getting killed by this bear costume, and I would have the reveal at the end be that it's like 5 or 6 guys from the football team who are each trading off this costume and taking out these girls that have either this one cheated on him, this one wants to get rid of his girlfriend, for this reason, this one for that reason, different things like that, where you sort of have like almost an Orient Express of dumb college movies where multiple people have multiple reasons. But, just something, where there's some thought put to it. I
think that's
it's psycho.
I think that's a fun idea. Yeah, the idea that it would be some sort of motivation, because we really don't even get a motivation outside of this is a person. Mentally ill people like to kill, and like I hate to be that guy that's just like, man, that's ableist, but like, boy howdy, it's pretty bone dry ableism in this case, huh?
You can't get much more ableist than people who have a mental issue want to kill you. You can't get much more ableist.
I mean,
but I would, if you had multiple people donning the costume, you could also have a lot of fun where the guy who's obviously a red herring, he is one of the killers. The person who's missing for part of the movie, so you suspect them, he is one of the killers. Everything where it's like, no, it's this guy because of this. No, it's that guy because of this. And then at the end you say, it was all of them, and all those answers were obviously true.
Well, yeah, what you're writing so clearly just writes itself that I don't know how they didn't think of the. I just don't know why you would make that a mystery, and then the reveal is just like it's who you thought it was.
Yeah, it's odd, but so one thing I will say, is this slasher. I may be getting ahead of myself in terms of describing and rating the slasher. But this kind of gives away my thoughts on it. The slasher has one thing going for them. And that one thing is the idea of making a nice improvised bladed weapon where you've got 4 knives sticking out from between your fingers and using that improvised weapon and just pushing that through the paws of the bear suit. Making some nice claws for the bear. Like, I think that is pretty much that is the best thing going, I think, for this mascot, for this killer. I don't know if you...
The face is pretty nothing.
Yeah.
I feel like that is it. The claws really are about it. The fact that they did that with the claws, and then they started to do something with mistaken identity, but outside of that, I feel like they didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't build up this killer. It was a big mystery on who the killer even was, and I just feel like I don't know. Here's a compare and contrast. Compare this movie to Saw. Yeah, have you seen the first Saw anytime recently?
I saw it once when it came out
And
on
you remember the
DVD.
twist at the end? I won't
Oh
spoil
yeah.
the twist at the end. But it's like you think about a twist like that, you can, and then it's just like the twist in this one is like a non sequitur.
Mhm.
Basically, just like the original Psycho, like non sequitur transphobia. Like I don't know what the fuck the deal.
This
Why?
movie is ableist. It's transphobic.
You know, those terms get thrown around a lot. Boy, is it fucking accurate for this movie, right?
Well,
Like,
when they had the reveal at the end, and Barney, the lunch lady, turned out to be the killer, and they
Yeah.
actually cut in the voice of the brother, like they had her talk like the brother. They actually had a male actor's
dude.
voice come out of
Yeah.
her mouth. I thought it was going to be a sleepaway camp reveal. I thought it was going to be a thing where she actually was the male guy, who was the killer, and the twin was, incorrectly locked up in the asylum.
Oh, yeah.
And she was actually, and I was like, I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm kind
Your
of
mind was
here
doing
for it. I'm kind of
no.
here for
Your
it to see what you
mind
do. But no.
is doing all these mental gymnastics to make it seem like this movie is more interesting
Yeah.
than it is.
And it turned out to not even be that. It just was that
No.
she could do an imitation of his voice.
Yep. I talk voice.
Yeah.
I drop register.
And I don't know about the original Psycho. I would have to watch it again to key into this fact because I don't really remember the specific thing. But
You
I
mean
don't
like
think
the transphobia thing?
no. I
Oh.
don't think they had the mother's voice come out of Norman's mouth.
No,
I think
Norman
it
was just doing a
him-
voice.
Yeah, him being quote unquote mother. With
And
this,
he-
they
and
go
he-
too far. They just put that voice right in that mouth, and it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, he did a great voice. He did an amazing, weird, decrepit ghost. Yeah, it was really good. But that was just a good performance.
Right. So about the slasher, nothing good about the slasher other than the bear claws through the fingers, which is a pretty metal idea. But it should be noted, this is a standard stock bear costume like you would buy in some party store. But they couldn't let it be, so they added on like a felt tongue. They put big felt eyes on it. Like, that's not originally on the costume. They put this fucking ugly ass stupid fucking wig on top, which makes no sense. Bears don't have that. There's no reason for the character to have that. And they give it a green tie just to completely go against every color option that they should have picked. And I get it. You wrote your movie. You wrote your silly almost comedy, almost Animal House. You named the college DeWitt because everybody's doing it. They all do it at that college. Like, I get what you're saying, but the bear costume's too ridiculous. You couldn't leave it alone. You did too much picking and sticking stuff onto it with hot glue. You should have
very
just
much
left it a
so-
bear costume.
I'm against not having a conceptual killer to begin with. Like, why would you just have something so generic going around? I really
Yeah.
feel like they were hoping that the bear claw thing was so innovative, but all it really did is just kind of limit what all the kills would look like.
Right. And they could've-
Whereas Jason, I always loved that he was just improvising, like whatever. And it's like, if you want to go with the claws thing, I'm feeling like the kind of kills you're going to see are more limited, so you have to like be picking up the slack somewhere else. There's got to be a reason to watch this thing.
Right. Each scavenger hunt location should have had something at the location which was dangerous and could kill you, and somebody gets killed with it.
That would be funny if like every time they go to a different location, there was like a final destination of like zooming in on the camera, the character looking at a thing that's very obviously dangerous, and every
Yes.
single time it was just a red herring and
Yes.
it just got clawed in the fucking.
Like, somebody goes up to the top of the tower, the belfry of the little chapel. Somebody goes up to the top, and they look out the broken window at the drop below, and there's sort of like a vertigo moment, and they kind of step back like, ooh, that's a long, wouldn't want to go out that broken window. And then they, the killer comes up and bashes their head against the bell. And that's it. Like, nothing to do with the drop. Nothing. But I don't know. I don't. Do you agree about the fucking? They should have not. Whoever was gluing things onto the bear costume should have been fired.
The face was pretty janky, but like I was kind of like trying to give it the benefit of the doubt of like maybe it's a fucking jank bear costume in reality.
I find it very hard to believe they did not hot glue the fucking that wig on top of the head.
They did. They did. They did. They 100% did, and it makes no sense. But I'm wondering if that's kind of like the bit. Is like it's supposed to be bad.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe this is a movie that was intended to be so bad it's good, and people just have taken it unironically. I don't know.
No, because like I think about there was like the two students that like had a bunch of like jokes or whatever.
Yeah.
And but they weren't really like funny. I think that they wanted. I think that that's what they. Yeah, they were just hyperactive, and it's like, I don't know. There's not a whole lot of likability.
There was one joke in this movie which I can sort of see what they were going for, and I think it kind of was okay as a joke. And there is a nerd in this movie, like a nerd character, stereotypical nerd. And at one point he's at a party, and next to him is a nerd girl, a female nerd, a nerd-ass, if you will. And the two of them are standing together, not really looking at each other. And in any other movie, those two would get together. They would cut to them later on, and they'd be making out, on a couch really heavily. And you'd be like, whoa, the two nerds hit it off.
And the whole purpose of that is to show that like all of the other characters that have more important plot development haven't gotten anywhere yet. Like that's the whole bit.
But the thing is, too, it's like you would think that would be the setup.
Yeah.
But then the nerd just tries to like sexually assault her by putting his face in her chest. She runs away, and then he just goes over to some other girls and starts bothering them. And I could almost see a joke there where it's like, here are the two nerds, and they're going to get together. Nah, he's just a piece of shit. Fuck it. Never mind. But
I'm trying to think what I saw. I'm trying to think what I saw recently that was going down that line. Anyway, point is, no, not a good design. Should we rate our verdicts here?
Well, it's pretty straight up slash or pass. Would you want to get slashed by the slasher, or do you pass because they're too fucking stupid?
I'm gonna have to pass. I feel like there are a lot more creative ways to kill people. I feel like this will be used against me in court. I'm going to have to hard pass. I don't think that there was a whole lot to Puffins.
And so the cop with the cigarette dangling out of his mouth looks you in the face and he says, so what you're saying is that if you were the killer, you would have done it in a more interesting way? Yes, wait, no, yeah, I mean...
Well, it was just bear claws. That's pretty unpoetic, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's really evocative of my spirit. I feel like if I was going to do anything... it would be arson.
Of course, always arson. But yeah, I would say pass as well. I do like the bear claws concept, but not as the entire concept for the entire movie. And the look is just too fucking stupid. It is too. I would not want to be slashed by this thing. I would not want to be the person or one of the people who died to fucking Stuffy McFuffins the bear. And Could we just CGI Wolverine into every scene instead? And then he's the killer? Yeah, it's part of the multiverse. The
MCU
has opened this up now, yeah.
They just CGI his body into every fucking scene, and they just CGI over the stupid bear costume, and it's just Wolverine every time, and he's like, fuck you, bub, and just fucking slashes these women.
Yeah, nobody cheats on Wolverine. Nobody cheats on Logan. Put him in a college jacket with an L on the fucking chest. But yeah. So all in all, I think kind of a failure of a movie, kind of a failure of a slasher. I think you could do something with a reboot of this that would be a lot better. Especially now that mascot horror is, something that people have picked up on since I, popularized it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have this movie in our list, is because I went back and I said, what was the first instance of mascot horror? And this is what I found. There may be other things, but this is the first time I could find an actual mascot portrayed in like a horror aspect. So,
It's
Girls' Night Out.
That's crazy to think that it was so shit.
Yeah. They relied too much on the premise carrying it. They didn't put in the
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Oh, should I spoil the ending for my movie pitch?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, it was a gay guy who just wanted to meet Taylor Swift, but everybody didn't think it was the gay guy, even though the gay guy was a bear. They thought it was a guy who was just like very misogynist coded, but didn't actually say anything misogynist. And they're like, well, he seems to hate women. So they just kind of like concocted this theory that he wanted to kill Taylor Swift, when in reality he did not give a shit whatsoever.
You know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to end the episode where you said it was a gay guy.
Oh, should I spoil the ending for my movie pitch?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, it was a gay guy.
Would you slash? Would you pass? Leave a comment with slash or pass below. If you enjoyed this episode, click like. If you enjoy this show, click subscribe. See you next time, but you won't see me.